She's now bragging about the success of Snow White, which is a movie that's going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars, and mainly because of her and because nobody wanted to support her.
Disney's Bob Iger says their mission is to entertain, not send messaging as Snow White sales compete for worst performing live-action Disney adaptation ever.
There are empty theaters all around the country. We are now at a 1 out of 10 on IMDb for the new Snow White, and it couldn't happen to a better person.
Yeah, we had more dwarfs than we did viewers in most of these theaters. And as you know, there were no dwarfs other than some CGI weird generated version of them.
Disney, the studio synonymous with enchanting fairy tales and happily ever afters, has stumbled into a real-world nightmare with its latest Snow White adaptation. Far from the expected box office magic, this film is rapidly becoming a symbol of cinematic missteps and financial woes. Rumors are now swirling that Disney might be discreetly pulling Snow White merchandise from stores, an almost unprecedented move that speaks volumes about the perceived failure. Is the public backlash against this reimagining truly that severe? And how is Rachel Zegler, the actress at the center of this swirling vortex of criticism, navigating this career-defining storm? Forget pixie dust and enchanted forests. This is the grim reality of a fairy tale gone terribly, terribly wrong.
Don't alienate half of the country when you're putting out a product meant to appeal to all. It's the Michael Jordan Republicans buy sneakers too.
The initial audience and critical response to Snow White can only be described as an overwhelming wave of rejection. Instead of the warm embrace Disney anticipated, the film was met with a chilling blast of negativity, burying its prospects under a mountain of disapproval. Imagine the stark silence of a near-empty movie theater on opening weekend. That's the stark and unsettling picture painted by reports from cinemas showing Snow White across the nation. Online, the film's IMDb rating plummeted to a shocking 1 out of 10, a score typically reserved for the most reviled and critically lambasted productions in cinematic history. One particularly blunt viewer comment encapsulates the widespread disappointment, lamenting the film's apparent deficiencies in virtually every department. From the acting performances and screenplay quality to the directorial choices and overall visual presentation. This comprehensive failure to meet even basic expectations, especially given Disney's reputation for high production values, has left audiences feeling not just disappointed, but genuinely bewildered. Indeed, one reviewer succinctly captured the prevailing sentiment, describing the entire viewing experience as an unsettling fever dream, a phrase that perfectly conveys the sense of confusion and disorientation reported by many who dared to venture into this cinematic realm. Amidst this chorus of condemnation, a significant portion of the public discourse has coalesced around the film's lead actress, Rachel Zegler, making her the focal point of both praise and intense scrutiny.
For every one of the 18 hours I am in the Snow White dress, I expect to get paid. If it's 18 hours, I want 18 hours of pay. I'm sure she got underpaid as a Disney lead actress.
Rachel Zegler, who embodies the iconic Snow White in this contemporary reimagining, has unexpectedly become a lightning rod for the swirling controversy. While she has publicly and passionately championed the film, articulating its intended message of progress and female empowerment, her vision appears to have resonated poorly with a substantial segment of the viewing public. Many argue that instead of a refreshing and relevant update, the film delivers a fragmented and tonally inconsistent narrative that fundamentally betrays the spirit of the original fairy tale. A central point of contention, sparking heated debate, is the almost complete excision of the traditional romantic love story, a narrative element deeply ingrained in the classic Snow White narrative. While defenders of this creative choice argue that it modernizes the character, imbuing her with independence and agency, a significant number of viewers perceive it as a fundamental alteration that strips away the very essence of the beloved story. Critics argue that in striving for contemporary relevance, the filmmakers inadvertently alienated a considerable portion of their potential audience. As one astute commentator succinctly observed, invoking a familiar marketing analogy, it's like Michael Jordan Republicans buy sneakers too. This controversial creative decision, compounded by Zegler's often polarizing public pronouncements defending the film's direction, has ignited a firestorm of online debate and criticism. The intensity of this backlash has even prompted some previously steadfast Disney enthusiasts and media personalities who traditionally offered the studio the benefit of the doubt to publicly retract their support, joining the chorus of voices decrying the film's flawed script, jarring visuals, and jarringly inconsistent tone. However, beyond the realm of creative choices and artistic direction, unsettling whispers began to emerge, hinting at deeper, more systemic issues plaguing the film's production.
People have real problems and no one gives a if she got paid for 17 instead of 18 on her multi-million-dollar salary, which is not calculated by the hour.
Beneath the polished veneer of a big-budget Disney production, troubling accounts of internal chaos and extensive reshoots have surfaced, painting a picture of a film struggling for its very existence from its inception. Industry insiders have revealed that the production was plagued by not one, but a staggering 3 separate rounds of reshoots, each ostensibly intended to rectify glaring script deficiencies, salvage faltering sequences, or address unforeseen narrative inconsistencies. However, this relentless cycle of tinkering and re-editing appears to have backfired spectacularly, exacerbating the film's underlying weaknesses rather than resolving them. Instead of a cohesive and finely crafted cinematic jewel, seasoned observers contend that the final product feels disconcertingly patched together, a Frankensteinian creation riddled with jarringly abrupt cuts, awkward transitions, and a pervasive sense of narrative discontinuity that shatters any semblance of immersive storytelling. Imagine attempting to assemble a complex jigsaw puzzle only to discover that many of the pieces are mismatched, warped, or simply missing. This jarring and frustrating experience mirrors the cinematic journey described by many viewers of Snow White. And this protracted and tumultuous production process came at an exorbitant financial cost. The budget for Snow White reportedly ballooned to truly monstrous proportions, escalating far beyond initial projections and ultimately demanding an astronomical box office performance simply to recoup its staggering investment. However, even before the film's official release, a palpable sense of unease and apprehension began to permeate public discourse. Negative buzz gathered momentum, fueled by persistent leaks revealing drastic alterations to the original storyline and unsettling glimpses of the production's unconventional and, to some, off-putting visual aesthetic. As a result, pre-release enthusiasm for Snow White plummeted dramatically, transforming the once-anticipated blockbuster into a potential financial albatross. The formidable financial mountain Disney needed to conquer to achieve profitability morphed into an insurmountable Everest. And as sales of associated merchandise began to falter and stagnate, the ominous signs of an impending cinematic and financial disaster became increasingly difficult to ignore.
So she just encapsulates everything that most of us cannot stand about modern day feminism and the left in general, and Hollywood.
The unfolding financial narrative surrounding Snow White is rapidly transitioning from concerning to catastrophic. Alarming early box office returns are painting a grim picture, strongly suggesting potential losses spiraling into the hundreds of millions of dollars for Disney. Adding insult to injury, the once lucrative merchandise ecosystem tied to the film is reportedly experiencing a significant and accelerating downturn, with credible reports indicating that certain product lines are being quietly removed from retail shelves or, even more drastically, never seeing the light of day at all. This merchandise meltdown serves as a stark and unambiguous indicator of widespread audience rejection. If consumers are unwilling to purchase associated products, it unequivocally signals a profound failure to capture public imagination and generate cultural resonance. The gravity of this situation is further amplified by the historical performance of Disney's live-action remakes. Even those adaptations that garnered less than stellar critical reviews typically manage to achieve reasonably respectable, if not spectacular, financial returns on the global stage. Snow White, however, appears to be charting a dramatically different course, ominously poised to etch its name in cinematic infamy as potentially the most financially devastating live-action adaptation in Disney's illustrious history. It is a financial black hole rapidly expanding before the studio's eyes, leaving industry analysts and studio executives alike grappling with the daunting question of how Disney can possibly mitigate the escalating losses and navigate this deepening economic crisis. As the undeniable reality of the financial hemorrhage becomes increasingly apparent, the spotlight of accountability is shifting towards Disney's top leadership, demanding answers and sparking intense scrutiny of strategic decision-making.
Her heroine cannot be in love or be saved by a man, the prince, that she's more focused on becoming the leader she was meant to be, as if women in modern day America must make that choice.
In the face of mounting financial losses and a barrage of relentlessly negative critical assessments, Disney's chief executive officer Bob Iger has embarked on a public relations damage control campaign attempting to downplay the sheer magnitude of the crisis. His strategy appears to revolve around dismissing the overwhelmingly negative reception as merely the isolated grumblings of overly critical reviewers or a vocal minority resistant to progressive narratives. However, industry insiders and financial analysts swiftly point to an inconvenient truth. Studio budgets and box office revenues are matters of public record, readily accessible and impervious to spin. No amount of carefully crafted rhetoric or optimistic pronouncements can effectively erase the stark and irrefutable financial data that unequivocally screams cinematic and commercial disaster. While Iger may attempt to reframe Snow White as an artistic triumph or a culturally significant statement, the far more pressing challenge lies in convincingly assuring investors and shareholders that these colossal financial deficits can be somehow rationalized, absorbed, or ideally recouped. Unsurprisingly, shareholders and members of Disney's board of directors are reportedly demanding concrete explanations and demonstrable accountability, directly questioning the strategic miscalculations and executive decisions that precipitated such a spectacularly costly failure. Pressure is intensifying on Iger and the entirety of Disney's executive leadership to not only acknowledge the gravity of the situation, but also to articulate a credible and actionable plan for course correction, demonstrating a clear path forward to prevent similar catastrophes in the future. The fundamental question reverberating throughout Hollywood is no longer simply about one failed film, but rather whether Snow White's dramatic downfall represents a singular misstep or a more alarming symptom of a deeper, potentially systemic malaise within the studio's creative and financial infrastructure.
Be a leader as a female and fall in love and be rescued by a prince, like that's incongruous bullshit. That's only the left's version of what it means to be a strong woman or female empowerment.
The Snow White debacle is rapidly transcending the realm of a mere studio setback, evolving into a potent cautionary narrative with far-reaching implications for Disney and the entire Hollywood studio ecosystem. It serves as a stark and undeniable illustration of the inherent perils of over-reliance on established brand recognition and nostalgic sentimentality, particularly when these factors are prioritized at the expense of fundamentally sound storytelling and genuine respect for the source material. Audience behavior, increasingly discerning and vocal in the digital age, strongly suggests a growing fatigue with formulaic remakes and adaptations that prioritize superficial updates over narrative integrity. There is a palpable sense that contemporary viewers are actively seeking authenticity, coherence, and originality, and are increasingly quick to reject cinematic offerings that feel inauthentic, forced, or driven by ideological agendas that overshadow genuine entertainment value. This shift in audience expectations could very well represent a significant inflection point in the entertainment industry, potentially signaling a fundamental reevaluation of how major studios approach the creation, marketing, and reception of remakes and adaptations. The once perceived safe bet of churning out lavish but creatively bankrupt remakes of beloved classics may be rapidly losing its allure, potentially heralding the end of an era of remake mania and ushering in a new paradigm that prioritizes creative innovation and genuine audience connection over mere brand exploitation. Even amidst the widespread chorus of condemnation and industry introspection, the film's central figure, Rachel Zegler, continues to stand firm in her convictions, steadfastly maintaining her perspective on the film's intended message and its perceived cultural significance.
So, I mean, this woman has clicked every box. And just for cherry on top at the end, she gave an interview last week talking about how they were basically a bunch of white supremacists on the set of West Side Story.
As the financial and critical wreckage of Snow White becomes increasingly undeniable, the inevitable blame game has commenced within the hallowed halls of Walt Disney Studios. Industry insiders report a palpable atmosphere of tension and finger-pointing, as executives and creatives alike scramble to deflect responsibility and protect their positions amidst the unfolding crisis. Whispers circulate of heated internal meetings, strained professional relationships, and a pervasive sense of unease rippling throughout the studio hierarchy. Questions are being raised about the chain of command, the decision-making processes that led to such a disastrous outcome, and the overall judgment of those entrusted with shepherding this high-profile project. Rumors of potential restructuring and executive reshuffling are beginning to surface, suggesting that the fallout from Snow White may extend beyond mere financial losses, potentially triggering significant personnel changes at the highest levels of Disney's film division. The pressure on CEO Bob Iger is intensifying, not only from external shareholders demanding accountability, but also from within the company itself, as internal factions maneuver and position themselves in the wake of this unprecedented failure. The search for scapegoats, or at least individuals who will bear the brunt of public and internal criticism, is likely underway, and the coming weeks and months may reveal a period of significant upheaval and internal strife within the seemingly impenetrable walls of the Magic Kingdom. The once harmonious image of Disney as a well-oiled creative machine is being challenged by the stark reality of Snow White's catastrophic performance, exposing potential vulnerabilities and fault lines within the studio's operational and leadership structure. The unfolding drama behind the scenes at Disney promises to be as compelling, if not more so, than the cinematic misadventure that triggered it all.
Where Steven Spielberg and co. were demanding that she prove how Latina she really is, since her name doesn't sound Latina, and she was angrily saying, did I have to bring in my little abuelita for you to believe that I was Latina?
The Snow White debacle has forced Disney to confront a fundamental question that extends far beyond the immediate financial losses. What is the future of the studio's content strategy, particularly concerning its reliance on live-action remakes of animated classics? The resounding failure of this latest adaptation has cast a long shadow over Disney's previously successful, or at least reliably profitable formula of reimagining beloved animated properties for a contemporary audience. The studio now finds itself at a critical crossroads, facing a stark choice between doubling down on a strategy that has demonstrably faltered or embarking on a more radical course correction, potentially involving a significant shift in creative direction and resource allocation. Industry analysts are speculating about a range of potential scenarios, from a cautious retrenchment and a more selective approach to future remakes, to a bolder pivot towards developing original intellectual property, exploring new genres, and diversifying its content portfolio beyond nostalgia-driven adaptations. The pressure to innovate and adapt is mounting, as the Snow White experience has starkly demonstrated that brand recognition and pre-existing audience affection are no longer foolproof guarantees of box office success, especially when audiences perceive a disconnect between the reimagined product and the cherished essence of the original. Disney's response to this crisis will not only determine the fate of its future remake projects, but may also have a broader impact on the entire Hollywood studio landscape, potentially influencing how other major players approach the delicate balance between exploiting established franchises and cultivating genuinely fresh and engaging cinematic experiences for an increasingly discerning and demanding global audience. The lessons learned or ignored from the Snow White snowstorm will undoubtedly shape the contours of Disney's creative and business strategies for years to come, potentially marking a pivotal turning point in the studio's storied history.
That's her thanks to Steven Spielberg, who discovered her and made her. So she's an ingrate, she's annoying, and I think she's probably two and done.
And if she hadn't have opened her mouth, I think that this movie might have done well. They might have just been able to ride on the hopium of the movie and some well-cut trailers, and people would have paid to go see it, and then it would have fallen off when people knew it was garbage.
In the final analysis, the saga of Snow White 2025 stands as a compelling narrative of squandered potential, missed opportunities, and profoundly impactful lessons learned through harsh experience. As the Walt Disney Company grapples with the extensive and multifaceted fallout from this $200 million-plus cinematic and financial disaster, the pivotal question remains: what critical insights will Disney, and indeed the broader Hollywood community, extract from this particularly icy cinematic snowfall? The resounding criticisms are unambiguous and consistent. Perceived forced messaging and ideological agendas overshadowed the fundamental principles of compelling storytelling, ultimately resulting in widespread audience alienation and consequently substantial financial ruin. Will Disney and other major studios choose to double down on their current trajectory, potentially exacerbating existing audience disconnects, or will they instead choose to heed the unmistakable and unified message emanating from viewers, critics, and the unforgiving marketplace alike? The future trajectory of Disney's ambitious slate of live-action remakes and perhaps the very landscape of Hollywood adaptations as a whole may very well hinge on the collective lessons gleaned from this truly spectacular Snow White meltdown. The post-mortem examination of this cinematic event is undoubtedly far from over, and the lingering aftershocks of this fairy tale flop are likely to reverberate throughout the entertainment industry for a considerable time to come, prompting crucial conversations and potentially reshaping studio strategies for years to come.